Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Hey, greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another very exciting round with confetti of and new MMA show. I am your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of fortuitous things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer, and I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two compadres who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing to you first, he is in an undisclosed location in the state of New York. He is Mark Prio. Say hi, buddy.
Hi, buddy. Omar, have you been doing that? I didn't even catch on to that. Have you been doing that at the start of every episode with the confetti?
Nope.
Oh, that was a first. That's the new move.
Me popping the cherry. There it is.
Oh,
I've actually been thinking about wearing
this week. Let's see.
Oh, let's see.
No. Yes.
Hey, there it is.
And balloons.
And
Look
balloons.
at me.
What
I'm
the
a fucking
fuck is
party
going
over
on?
here.
Wait, can I do it?
Wow. If you're listening to this on audio, you are missing out
Can I do
on
it?
the party that's happening.
No,
It's not a fun place at Mike's house.
no, man.
What does thumbs up do?
It's supposed to just give you a little
Big old
bubble.
thumbs up. No,
Doesn't give me
okay.
shit. Anyway. Oh, those things. So wait, if I do one, will I get it? Too close to the screen. There we go. That's it. Yeah. Just gonna say really quick before we start. If you are someone who is listening to the show and supports us, and I've said this before, but if you know someone who is a YouTube guy who understands the algorithms, things of that nature, please hit us up because we seem to be dropping. I'm not quite sure what is happening. I don't know if YouTube is burying us. They heard one of us say something, I don't know what, and decided they wanted to nix our rise here. But yeah, I'm not thrilled about it. Thought last week was going to pop with the South African support, but not quite.
YouTube is bored with us. They're over us.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I don't know. I think somebody made a political comment on here or something. We got shut down.
Was that me?
I have no idea. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, we've done over 125 episodes, so we've said a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's true.
Okay, now
True.
introducing, he is in the great state of Florida. He is Omar Artola. What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy? I the wife and I will be going away this weekend to a comedy show.
Oh,
Never done that
Going
before.
away to a comedy show?
Well, you're right. That was misrepresenting things. I'm going to be going to
Okay.
Orlando, which is like 2 hours away.
Oh.
But it's a drive though.
Whose show?
It's a comedian that I have seen on Facebook and Instagram quite a bit. Jeff Arcuri
okay.
is his name.
I have
Very
to
excited
Google
for
and see
this.
if I know this person.
He's a funny dude. I've recently noticed watching a lot of comedy on like Instagram and YouTube and stuff that crowd work, people who can do crowd work is a very specific skill set. And then there are dudes that can do like arenas
I've seen this guy.
and stuff. And
Yeah.
they're not always dudes that can do crowd work in smaller venues don't always translate very well to large arenas. And I've never been in a small comedy club setting before. I've only seen comedians in larger theaters or something like that.
Dude, comedy
Yeah,
clubs
so
are
I'm
the best setting.
I'm pretty excited for this, to be honest. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Yeah, I have seen his clips before. He is pretty funny.
Dude is funny, man. He's funny.
Sweet.
Roll us in,
Cool,
Mike.
man. What's
Giddy
up?
up.
Giddy up.
Mike.
All right. Okay, so we have another kind of a half episode for you guys this week because there's nothing to recap. So we only have to look forward to this coming weekend's UFC Fight Night, Dolidze versus Imavov. Very nice. Going down this Saturday, February 3rd at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. We're going to break down and predict and pick the main card fights for this fight night. Before we get into any fight talk, gentlemen, let us first address our audience. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, Thank you so much. We love each and every one of you guys, the tens of listeners that we have right now. It's going to grow because we're going to stay here. We're not going away. We're not going anywhere. And we're going to keep building and growing this MMA community right here on this show. And you can be part of that by subscribing to our channel, hit the thumbs up, do all of those free things that are free for you and help us out so much. First and foremost, if you like any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. If you disagree with any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. We want to know your takes on all of these issues and talking points. As always, please keep it classy. If you want audio only, we got you there as well. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, find us on social media at @andnew_MMA show in all the places. Okay. Well, there's no marquee this week. So let's lead things off with Inside the MMA Sphere with Omar Artola. Omar, let us know what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage.
Well, the biggest piece of news has really come as a result of the last UFC event that went on, where Arnold Allen got in a couple of knees while who the hell did he just fight? Because now it's Imavov in my head.
Imavov.
Thank you. Evloev took advantage basically of the grounded fighter rule that's currently in place, which he just put one hand on the ground and basically Arnold Allen was expected not to do anything. So this week, apparently, the Association of the Boxing Commissions, the ABC, will be meeting in a committee headed by Andy Foster in terms of putting it on the ballot to try and fix that rule and eliminate the hand down thing. And he's basically saying, put something else down, put a knee down, put a shoulder down, put an elbow down, put something else down, but you can't use your hand anymore. Yeah. And I totally agree because it's super confusing. It's ridiculous. And it promotes this stalling tactic that shouldn't even be a thing. Hopefully one day they get rid of the 12-6 elbow, but we'll save that for another day.
So basically you, to be considered down, you actually have to be down.
Look at that. Look
groundbreaking
at that.
See what I did there?
Yep.
Wild.
Yep.
All right. Next on the list, we have a slight update on Tony Ferguson. Would you believe the very calm and measured Tony Ferguson fought injured in the Paddy Pimblett fight?
What? No way.
Here's my thing on this. He's like, yeah, I had this injury. I didn't want to pull out of the fight. Blah, 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 blah. So you
I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this whole thing, by the way.
You decided to address it by like running infinity miles with David Goggins. That was what
Correct.
You thought was going to be
real quick,
the move.
Question. I have a question.
I'm glad somebody brought it up.
Did he sustain this injury in training with David Goggins?
Fucking probably.
I mean, that's kind of like the whole David Goggins brand is to like train until you almost kill yourself and then keep training.
Yes.
Yep.
So look, as
I'm going to read.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm going to read what he wrote on his Instagram during the video of him in the hospital having recovering from his recent surgery. Fucked my shit up during a practice sesh, MCL tear. I kept it to myself and put it behind me till after the fight. I trained like no one knew. Shit hurt so good. 3 weeks before the fight time, I told a few of my crew, nothing changed. I recently took care of my leg and had surgery last Thursday, 1 week after my elbow arm surgery, both arthroscopics. I don't know what that means. Thought I would get
non-invasive surgeries.
Oh, thought I would get them both done and double down. Got it over with so I can do what I do best. Beyond rage is an understatement. I feel no despair, just repair. And if you know Tony Ferguson, I decided to leave out all of the emojis that come with that message. You're welcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he apparently fought with a torn MCL, which
wow. What you gonna do?
What am I supposed to do with this information?
I don't even know, dog. I don't even know. It's just so crazy to me.
It's also
Because
so
it
Tony. It's just so Tony.
But it goes back to this whole thing is like, so is he done, or was this because he was on half a leg? Like, I don't know.
Look, if it was anyone else, I'd be like, wow, like fought with torn MCL. And even if it was Tony without the Goggins thing, but like, I know the training he was putting himself through. So it's just like, so you chose to be dumb? Then I don't really feel bad. Like, I don't, like it's an odd scenario.
Yeah. No. All right. Well, we have a ton of fight announcements, so we're going to run those real quick. Probably some you've heard, fellas. Some you probably have not. So let's get right into it. We have the update here. Ikram Aliaskhab is out of his fight. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez will not be facing Roman Kopylov at UFC 298 next weekend? A couple weekends from now, February 17th.
That might be a tougher fight.
I actually do think it's a tougher fight.
Kopylov is so good.
He's gotten better, I think, too.
He is so good, but he's probably more takedownable than Aliaskhab was going to be.
That's fair. The striking, though, I think is a problem.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. Joanne Wood, the former Calder Wood, versus Marina Moroz 2 has been added to UFC's 299 event on March 9th. Gerald Mearshart versus Brian Barberina has been added to UFC's Vegas card on March 16th.
Barberina's still doing the middleweight thing, huh?
Yep. He ain't cutting weight. He's not going to cut the weight. He's not going to do it. Chris Barnett is out against his fight with Muhammad Usman. Usman will now be facing Mick Parkin at UFC Vegas 89 on March 23rd. Anyone? Mick Parkin?
Yeah, he won his debut, I think, right? I'm trying to think who he fought.
I had not heard of that name.
Okay, well,
I can't remember who he fought. But yeah, he won his debut, definitely.
It seems like Usman would be past a little bit.
I mean, yeah, it's an unfortunate.
He hasn't lost a fight yet, right?
It's an unfortunate booking for Usman, yeah. Not like Barnett was like some huge step up, but at least it was. Dude, Barnett doesn't really fight much. He ends up out of a lot of fights.
Still carries a lot of that. That viral video is just still running though.
Yeah.
Billy Q back in the mix against Gabriel Miranda. That fight will be going down UFC Vegas 89 on March 23rd. Edmund Shahabazian versus Dushko Todorovic. That fight is also on that same Vegas card on the 23rd. And Junior Tafa versus Carl Williams added to that March 23rd card. Dominic Reyes out of his fight. So we'll have to continue to wait on that. Alonzo Menefield will be stepping in, and he will be facing be facing Carlos Ulberg in this Atlantic City card on March 30th.
That's a good fight.
That is a good fight. To be fair, that's a way more interesting fight for me. I gotta be
both guys hot right now too.
Yeah. It's a lot more dangerous too, I think, on both sides. I wasn't really too concerned for Carlos Ulberg, if we're being wholly honest,
Fair.
Trevor Peake versus Charlie Campbell has been added to the UFC Vegas 90 card on April 6th. Look at this name, because I didn't see this one coming up. Cynthia Calvillo back in the mix, booked against Piera Rodriguez. That fight has been added also to that April 6th card. Hopefully we make it to this fight this time. She's had, you want to talk about bad luck or whatever is going on there? That's...
So wait, I'm trying to think. Piera fights at...
This is a strawweight,
correct?
It's a strawweight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she's trying to make strawweight again. Okie doke, we'll see.
I think she was trying to do that before in her last fight.
I can't remember if she made it in her last fight. What's her last fight? Why can I not think?
Because it all blurs whether she...
Is it Loopy? Was that her last fight?
It was Loopy, and it was
strawweight.
Then,
that was a strawweight. Okay.
That was the Miami card. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else we got. A few more left. We have Sadiq Yusuf versus Diego Lopes. That fight has been added to UFC 300 on April 13th, along with Jessica Andrade and Marina Rodriguez. And rounding that off here, we have Kayla Harrison in the UFC fighting at 135 against the preacher's daughter, Holly Holm. That'll be a very, very interesting fight to see how that goes down.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I did not think we would ever be seeing Kayla Harrison at 135, especially not this late in her career. Maybe like a few years back in my head, I was like, I wonder if she would try it. But like as the years have passed and she's gotten older, I did not even think that was on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Dog, and she's a thick girl, man. She's not
she's a big girl.
Small. Yeah. But the last picture that we saw her with Dustin, she's a lot smaller already than I feel like I've seen her in recent years. So maybe she's already been at work. Maybe this has been a plan for a minute. It doesn't look like it's a brand new thing to her.
I forget if we said this in our text, but apparently she did a test already and it went fine. So,
oh right, we did talk about that. Yeah. Well, at least that's what Dana White said. I don't know. Do we hear? Okay.
No, I'll be interested to see, and like interested to see what her quality of fighting looks like, because it feels like a lot of draining.
Well, even if so, let's say she diets, right? She does it the right way. She lowers everything. She's not like depleting her water and like trying to suck it out that way, right? Like you do it incrementally, you do it over time. I don't see 135 necessarily being impossible. I think we all thought she was probably at a 155 range already, trying to cut down in a couple months. Maybe that's not the case at all, and that seems more doable at that point. But my thing is, let's say she does cut to 135 in a healthy way, as far as weight cuts are concerned. Does she lose strength, right? Because her whole thing is overpowering and kind of using her judo and things like that to sort of ragdoll a lot of these women and hold control over them. We've seen Holly Holm be able to shrug a lot of that shit off in the past. And Holly Holm is not a small woman by any stretch of the imagination either. Nope. So it begs to differ what she loses at 135, if she loses anything at all. If she can retain all of that strength that she had at 155, 145, I mean, oh shit.
And also, what if she cuts so much that she has no gas?
Yeah, or less of a chin. I mean, there's a lot of things that can come into play.
Yep. Durability is also a big thing too. You know, at the end of the day, muscles are armor for the most part in a lot of these cases. And if you make your muscles smaller, it's very possible that you make a little bit of that armor a little weary, you know?
Yep.
Unless she can really wrestle Holly the entire fight. Holly is one of the cardio queens of women's MMA, man.
I'm pretty sure the whole reason this fight is even going on from a marketability standpoint is because Holly Holm was able to beat the last person who touted judo the way that Kayla does in Ronda Rousey.
Amen.
Ronda couldn't do a damn thing to Holly Holm. And Kayla Harrison at this point is sort of the next flag holder of the judo discipline. So it'll be interesting to see if it's just Ronda wasn't that good or if really Holly... I mean, to be fair, this was like... I mean, the gap in time, I guess, is pretty significant as well. But it'll still be interesting to see what comes of it. All right, just a couple more left. Lando Venata back in the mix is be fighting James Lontop. It's 2 L's. That can't be how it's pronounced, but that's what I'm going to go with.
Debutant.
Yeah, he'll be... this will be going on April 27th. Also, Ariane Lipski versus Karini Silva. That fight has also been added to this April 27th card. And last but not least, a real banger, frankly, Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Klose. That fight has been added to UFC 301 on May 4th. And that's all we have this week.
Nice. Like it.
Good job. Dude, what if Holly fucks her up in like the third round of that fight
and head kicks her? Because Kayla Harrison can't get her hands on her.
Kayla is laying on her. Holly gets up for like the third time, and they stand up, and Kayla is gassed. And Holly just dings her and dings her and dings her until she gets wobbled, and then she fucking head kicks her into next Thursday.
It's such an interesting fight, man, because I do think Kayla Harrison could potentially have the same level of judo. She could be even better just based on her size.
She's bigger.
Right. But at the same time, man, she has better hands than Ronda. I don't think there's an argument there. She's not a world-class striker, but I think it's fair to say that her hands are much more educated than Ronda's seemed to have been at least her defense seems to be much more educated than Ronda's was in the past.
Both things, offense as well.
Okay, well, yes. But I don't think that's going to matter with Holly. I think Holly is way too specifically with Holly though, right? Like Holly's striking acumen is really high, and I just don't see Kayla bringing anything new that she hasn't seen.
I mean,
but I think we're going to see Holly on a bike the entire time. I don't think Holly wants anything to do with Kayla Harrison.
Holly's going to say, "Please do not grab a hold of me." Yeah.
Nope.
See you later. Anyway,
it's only 3 rounds too. So if Holly could do that in 2 of those rounds, even if she does get beaten up in one of them, it's a dub.
Right. Yep. Okay. Let's talk about the fights that are going down this weekend, gentlemen. UFC Fight Night, Dolidze versus Imavov. And real quick, let's establish this. Is it Dolidze or Dolidze?
I thought it was Dolidze, but
I feel like I've heard both, but I think I've been hearing Dolidze more recently.
Hmm.
Dolidze. Let's go with it.
I'm fine with that.
Once again, going down this Saturday, February 3rd at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Before we talk about this main event, we're going to talk about all of these main card fights. I believe it starts with the welterweight bout between Gilbert Urbina and Charles Radtke. Am I wrong?
You are right.
Well, you are correct. Yes.
Before we talk about this main card, guys, are there any other fights or fighters on the prelims that you want to quickly spotlight for the viewers and listeners?
I am looking forward to seeing Azat Maxim in his second UFC fight against Charles Johnson. He is a dude who's 17-0, had some recognition worldwide pre-UFC. Didn't have an overwhelming debut against Tyson Nam, but obviously won. So I'm curious to see if he could look, a level above what he did in his debut here. Charles Johnson hasn't been too great lately, but he's never an easy fight, so it should be an interesting one. And then, or maybe I'll leave this one for Omar. Omar, you may go.
Yeah. I guess, there's the obvious one, Molly McCann versus Diana Belbita. Yeah. That's going to be their headliner for the prelims. That's the one everybody's going to want to watch for free. That's honestly, man, that's a good fight. That's going to be a good scrap.
And it's a rematch. Molly's beaten her before,
That's
which
right.
is why it's kind of strange to me that for Molly's drop down to 115, they went with a girl who she already fought when they could have gone with basically anyone in the whole weight class. But
yeah,
I guess maybe they're trying to get her a dub and they've seen it before and figure she could do it again. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's also Blake Builder on here. He's also on this card. I was just telling the guys here before we hopped onto this recording that I've seen him on Flamin' Hot Mitts on Instagram and had no idea that was him until I saw him in this picture. So finally put 2 and 2 together there. Those are the big ones that I'm really looking forward to. There are a couple other recognizable names on here, I guess, but for the most part, those are the ones that I'm keen on.
Yeah, we'll see if Themba Garimbo is improved now that The Rock got him a house and he can just focus on training.
I'm just wondering whether Pete Rodriguez is going to come in with bangs again or if we're going to fix that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's start this thing off in the welterweight division. Scrap between Gilbert Urbina and Charlie Chuck Buffalo Radtke. So Urbina, the 27-year-old out of West Laco, Texas, His record stands at 7-2 as a professional with 2 knockouts and 2 submission victories to his name. He is now 1-1 in the UFC, losing his UFC debut to Brian Battle in August of 2021. A long layoff and then a win over Orion Koski back in May of 2023. Now he's facing off against fellow welterweight Charlie Radtke, the 33-year-old out of Mundelein, Illinois, 8-3 as a pro. So very nice matchmaking here, very close records. 3 knockouts, 2 submissions to his name, and he's riding a nice 5-fight win streak as a professional coming into this weekend. He won his UFC debut back in September against Mike Mathetha, and now he looks to go extending his streak and go 2-0 in the UFC against Urbina. Mark, start us off. Give us your take of this welterweight matchup and ultimately your pick.
Just got sidetracked because I was looking at the odds and thought that I must have written them backwards, and I did. So that is fixed. The favorite here, by the way, there's no Enye in Urbina. It is just Urbina, Gilbert Urbina. He is the favorite. He is minus 205. Charles Radtke is plus 170. 6 inches of height and 3 inches of reach for Gilbert Urbina. So pretty significant size advantage for him. Radtke, I thought, looked okay in his debut against Blood Diamond. Looked fairly well-rounded. Granted, Blood Diamond hasn't exactly shown too much in his UFC run, which is now over, I believe. And I'll be honest, I know these guys are opening up a main card here, but I'm not sold yet that either of them has too high of a ceiling in the UFC. But with that said, I still didn't put too much thought into this because I did think Gilbert Urbina looked very, very improved the last time we saw him out there versus everything we had seen prior. So you combine that with a 6-inch height advantage, a reach advantage, that's where I'll go. You know, they're both pretty well-rounded. I think Urbina is stronger and hits harder, maybe a little slicker in the grappling as well if we end up there. So I'll trust him and I will go Urbina to 1 UD.
Omar?
I agree with a lot of that. Urbina looked really good in his last fight, and if we're being honest, man, he hasn't looked bad in any of his fights. He lost to Brian Battle, which, as we've seen, apparently is gonna happen. He lost to Sean Brady, which gonna happen. He hasn't really lost anybody else. So in his fights, he's a very solid fighter. We've seen him on The Ultimate Fighter as well. He looked good on The Ultimate Fighter, and he's gotten better. And I think whenever I see a lot of these fighters that you can see the improvement, like significant improvement in their games and their approach to the fight and their performances too, I tend to lean that way over somebody who's like good, consistently good, but like you don't really see any progress, right? And Urbina has shown, I think, leaps and bounds in his last fight, and he was already good before that. So I got to imagine he's getting better. I got to imagine the losses to Brian Battle and Sean Brady have only made him better. So I'm going to go with Urbina here as well. I actually think he's going to finish this fight. I think he does it by submission, round 2.
Nice. We are unanimous on this one. I'm going with the much bigger Urbina here to get the win over Radtke. I'll go UD for Urbina.
Nice.
Okay. We now go to the middleweight division with some Eastern Europe on Eastern Europe violence. We have Aliaskhab, Khizriev, I hope I'm not butchering that completely, taking on Makhmud Muradov. So we have out of Russia, Khizriev, 33 years old, undefeated. Yet another undefeated Russian. 12-0 is Khizriev, with 5 knockouts and 4 submission victories. Only 3 of his 12 wins have gone to the scorecards. Undefeated, of course, won on Contender Series back in September 2020, then won his UFC debut against Denis Tululin in March of 2022, a long layoff, and now he's back to extend his undefeated streak against the Uzbek Makhmud Muradov, or Makh is his nickname. 33 years old, 26-8 as a pro, only only 6 of those 26 wins have gone the distance. 17 wins by knockout, another 3 by submission. Most recently, he got a decision win over Brian Barberena, once again at middleweight, back in July of last summer. And now he's here to face off against the Russian in Las Vegas. Omar, we'll start with you on this one. Give us your take and your pick of Khizriev taking on Muradov.
I think in this case, I'm going to go with the undefeated Khizriev. I think I like his resume a little bit better. I can't remember too much about Muradov too much. I do remember him beating the brakes off of Brian Barberena, but that I remember being much more about size more than anything. I wasn't too impressed by the technique necessarily, but the volume that he put on him and the power that he exhibited, I thought was pretty damn good. But Khizriev, I think, is kind of a beast, for being wholly honest about it. And he also knocked out Husamal Paul Harris in the juiciest of his days, so it's got to count for something. So I'm going to go with Khizriev here. I think he gets it done pretty early. I'm going to go with round 1 submission.
Mark?
All right, Khizriev is the favorite at minus 170. Muradov is plus 140, so fairly close. Interestingly enough, the underdog Muradov is the one who is significantly bigger. He is going to be 5 inches taller than Khizriev in there. He will have a 1.5-inch reach advantage, so not as pronounced in the reach department. This is a weird fight to pick because Khizriev obviously is an undefeated fighter, and he is a guy who came into the UFC with real hype. But as you alluded to, he's fought one time in almost 3.5 years. He debuted in the UFC in March of 2022 after a long layoff prior to his debut, tapped Dennis Tululin, and now hasn't fought since then. So I don't remember what the injury was or what exactly has kept him out this whole time. But that is a lot of inactivity for a guy who's the betting favorite to have one fight in basically 3.5 years. So it's tricky. Muradov, as much as he's been up and down in the UFC, I think he's 4-2. I want to say when I took a peek earlier, he's clearly a fighter with some talent. We've seen him flash it in different areas. We've seen him flash it with the power. We've seen him flash it with the grappling. He's an athlete. It's there. And of course, as I said, he's the bigger man here. Like Khizriev was even considering a drop down to 170 after his last fight. That's what he had said before this whole injury and delay happened. And obviously, I guess he decided to take another at middleweight here, at least one more. So it's tough, but in the end, I will side tentatively with Khizriev just for the hype to be as big as it was. It's hard to resist. And the one thing that makes me a little comfortable about it is that he is a pressure fighter, and we've seen Muradov struggle with pressure before. Think about the way he looked in the GM3 fight when GM3 just wouldn't stay off of him because he had to, or else he was going to die. But it worked, and GM3 beat him, and I feel like that pressure is similar to what Khizriev is going to bring. So I debated finish, but I'm going to say Khizriev wins a UD.
What are the odds again?
Minus 170 for Khizriev, plus 140 for Muradov.
That's that's to me, that's surprisingly close for a fight between an undefeated fighter going up against a fighter with 8 losses.
Dude, when Khizriev debuted, he was a minus 1,200 favorite against Dennis Tululin. That's how much hype there was.
Yeah, and I think the inactivity is really the only reason why that line isn't longer than it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think also, even though Muradov does have 8 losses on his record, the guy's a killer. And he's going to have a significant size advantage over Khizriev. So there are definitely some question marks to this fight, and those attribute differences are what make this a very interesting fight to tune into. I'm excited for this one. And guys, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say that Makhmud Muradov takes Khizriev's O this Saturday night. I think he's going to rock him. I'll say he finishes him. I'm going to say he knocks him out in the second round. But I would not be surprised if Khizriev looks impressive in this one as well. But I'm going to go with the size, the layoff, the killer instinct in Muradov. The guy throws with bad intentions. He's a ferocious striker. Khizriev knows how to put it all together, though. He's proficient everywhere. He's very fluid on the feet. He's confident because he has great takedowns and very good ground game. But I'm going to roll the dice on this one. I'm going to say Muradov by knockout round 2.
Like it.
We're gonna be taking the lead next week, Mark.
Or the lead will be extended.
Mm.
Okay, I think what is the next bout? Is it Silva?
Yes.
Araujo and Silva, yeah.
Okay, this is where it is. Okay, Viviane Araujo taking on Natalia Silva in the women's flyweight division. Here we go. So we just had Eastern Europe on Eastern Europe violence, and now we have Brazil on Brazil violence. I'll start with Araujo. Viviane Araujo, the 37-year-old out of Brazil, 12-5 as a pro with 7 finishes, 3 of them knockouts, 4 of them submissions, coming off of a decision win over the veteran Jennifer Maia back in October. This time, she'll be standing across another Brazilian in Natalia Silva, the 26-year-old, also out of Brazil. Her record stands at 16-5 with 1 draw coming into this Saturday night with 12 finishes, 7 of those submissions, and she has not lost a fight since December of 2017 for a promotion called Thunder Fight 14. I'm guessing based in Brazil, perhaps. But she has gone undefeated since then. Let's see. I'm not going to sit here and count these out for you guys, but it looks like about 10 or more victories since then in a row. She's undefeated thus far in the UFC. She's 4-0 in the UFC. Most recently, a decision win over Andrea Lee last summer. Mark, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick and those odds.
So the odds are maybe wider than you might expect, maybe not. But point being, the bookies are giving Natalia Silva the respect that we all, I think, feel like she deserves. She is minus 350 in this fight, which is a lot for a step up like Araujo is. Araujo is plus 270 as the underdog. The height is the same. Araujo has a 3-inch reach advantage. And this is a well-matched fight. There are some things to think about, but you already know where I'm going here, and that's the side of Natalia Silva. Yes, Araujo is very strong. Yes, she's probably the most powerful fighter that Silva has fought yet. And most importantly, she could really test the grappling of Silva, which we haven't seen much yet in the UFC. But the grappling, when Silva came to the UFC, was supposed to be her calling card. And instead, we've gotten this Tasmanian devil of Taekwondo through 4 fights so far. But this may be the fight where she finally gets to show off that grappling also. So I trust her here. I think the speed is just on another level. Her speed in general and also her hand speed specifically. I think she'll be feinting all fight like we've seen from her, which will effectively freeze Viviane from throwing things as big as she would like to in terms of power shots, and that she can just gradually piece Viviane up as the fight goes on. And like I said, if Araujo does resort to the wrestling and get her down, which is possible because Silva's not big and Viviane's definitely a strong girl, I think we can end up impressed from what we see from Silva on the mat. So I got high hopes here that she can really put on another showcase. Araujo has been very tough. She's only been finished once, and it was before she even got to the UFC. So I will keep my streak of decisions going, and I will say Natalia Silva wins a UD.
Omar?
Yeah,
I personally think Araujo is one of the type of fighters that's going to be at her worst, or it'll be the worst in the beginning of the fight. Just trying to figure out that context there, how we're going to put that together. But I think she's the most dangerous in the first round, and I think it progressively gets worse in terms of her cardio, in terms of her output as the fight goes on. The problem with that is Silva keeps a relatively consistent pace throughout 3 rounds. And just like Mark said, she's a little pit bull. Like that girl's a problem. Her hand speed is crazy, but her combinations and her ability to understand striking, it seems like in there is what I think is the most fun part about watching her fight. Her ability to move while she fights and not stay stationary in one spot, I think, is also a really fun thing to watch. She gets into almost like she does get into brawls a little bit, but she knows when to back in and out of those spaces. And a lot of women, Araujo included, will just stand and bang. Like, if you give them the opportunity, she will plant her feet and she will just swing until somebody goes. And Silva is just a little bit more, I think, a little bit more skilled than that. And it's been fun to watch her throughout her UFC career so far. I have a little bit more faith in her ability to win, in her ability to put strikes together properly. And also, we'll see maybe if that ground game does come to life. But I just think Silva is just the better fighter here. So I'm going to go with her as well. I think I'm also going to go with the unanimous decision from Natalia Silva.
Natalia Silva is one of the most exciting strikers to watch in women's MMA right now. She's coming up. She's only 26 years old, so I'm taking her. So yeah, it's an easy pick, and she's bringing a lot of excitement to the cage every time she steps in there. So I'm taking Silva. I'll go with you guys, and I'll say UD over the very tough Viviane Araujo.
Yep.
It'll be a nice win. It'll definitely be a nice win if she can get by Araujo.
It's a big win.
Yeah, it is a big win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, what's Araujo ranked these days in the UFC rankings? Now I got to look quickly. I feel like she's ranked something that's a single digit.
Probably.
She is 7. So yeah, that's
If she gets past Araujo, then we're off to the races here.
Significant win. 7 seems high. God, do I have her that fucking high?
And Natalia Silva's already 9.
Oh, I have her at 8. Yeah, we're not far off. Damn. Yep.
Okay, we go up now to the welterweight division with Randy Brown taking on Muslim Salikhov. Randy Brown, rude boy, a 33-year-old out of Jamaica with a professional record that stands at 17 victories and 5 defeats, with 11 wins coming by finish. 6 of those are knockouts, 5 of them submissions. A very well-rounded resume for Brown. And he's coming off a win over Wellington Turman by decision last summer. Right before that, he lost to Jack Della Maddalena by a club and sub in February of last year. Muslim Salikhov, king of Kung Fu, the 39-year-old out of Dagestan, Russia, 19-4, with 13 of his 19 wins coming by way of knockout or TKO. He's looking to right the ship after losing a decision to Nicholas Dalby back in June of last year. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick of Brown versus Salikhov.
Well, you already know Randy Brown's my boy, so there will be no picking against Randy Brown. I think Salikhov is a good fighter. I think he's inconsistent a bit. I think he is hittable, and I think that's a bad combination when it comes to Randy Brown. The length, I can't imagine that the length of Randy Brown won't play some kind of factor here. I'm sure Mark will get into it a little bit more when he gets his picks. But Randy Brown is a lengthy human being, both from the waist down, and that didn't come out the way that didn't come out the way I wanted it to.
Pause.
Look, after 125 plus episodes, we say a lot of things. There's a lot of words that we say, and sometimes they don't come out right.
This is why the YouTube algorithm is working against us. Yeah, watch their episode. They were talking about dick size.
It's not great. It's not great. He has very long legs, and he has
big hands
very
too, right?
long arms. But Randy Brown, listen, man, Randy Brown is talented. He recently had his little skid with his run in with Jack Della Maddalena, which, again, as I've said here in the past with other fighters, that apparently is also going to happen from time to time. Yep. So I don't really hold that too hard against him. Salikhov has had losses against Li Jingliang in the last couple of years, as well as Nicholas Dalby. I just think Randy Brown is just a step above, at the very least, Dalby, in my opinion. And that's no shade to Dalby. Dalby just put on one hell of a performance in his last fight. He beat the holy shit out of this. I don't even remember who the hell it was now, but
Gabriel
Jesus
Bonfim.
Christ. That's right. That's right. Against the person you would never have thought he would put the whooping of whoopings on. But yeah, I just think Randy Brown is just going to be a little bit more skilled in that fight. I don't think it'll be a finish as good as Randy Brown is. Totally possible. But I just think it's going to be one of these fights that Randy Brown is going to try to not get hit with something dumb. And he'll use his range to his advantage, which we've seen him do in the past. So I'm going to go with the decision win for Randy Brown.
I'll go next. And I'm with you, dude. I'm taking Randy Brown. I think that Brown versus Della Maddalena matchup, that was a big fight for both of those guys because they're both super talented and we saw what happened there. But I was really glad that Randy Brown got back in the win column over Truman in the summer because I think that he still can go places in this division. So give me Randy Brown. I'll say decision as well because Salikhov is the kind of guy who's difficult to finish. He's only been finished 3 times in his whole career. So give me Brown. I'm going to say he outpoints him. He's going to be more active. I'll say UD. So Mark, take it.
So Randy's a pretty significant favorite. He is minus 250. Muslim Salikhov is plus 200. And yes, as Omar mentioned, there's a big size difference. Randy Brown is 4 inches taller, and he's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage, which is huge.
I mean, that's a whole jab. I mean,
yeah. These guys have been training for each other for a while. This is rebooked here from UFC 296, where it was supposed to happen originally. And I'll be honest, the more time I've had to think about this fight, the more I've wondered if Randy could be beat. But my main take last time was that I just think he brings a tough style for Salikhov to excel against. And I mostly still feel that way because Salikhov wants to have a striking contest in there, generally speaking, even a range striking contest where he can rely on his kicks, which is his number one weapon. But to do that at a 4-inch height and 8-inch reach disadvantage is going to be a very big ask. And yes, if it's going badly, he could look to wrestle. We've seen him win by going that route before. He has it in the bag. But I don't think he has too much of an advantage on the mat with Randy Brown because with Randy's length, and he can be kind of slick down there himself. And Salikhov's not, I don't know that I see him being able to hold Randy down if that's the route he tried to take. So I think I still feel safe with Randy. I get my biggest concern, I guess, is if Salikhov just comes out absolutely trying to rip the legs and that changes the fight because he does have pretty devastating kicks, but he's not really a huge leg kicker, generally speaking. So I think I'm just going to trust Randy. I think he can be a step ahead, be quicker, use that reach, and just use his variety to keep Salikhov from really being able to settle in and kind of just stay one notch ahead the whole fight long. Plus, I trust his cardio more as we go into the third round. So, yeah, I'll go Randy for my 4th straight decision pick on this card. Randy Brown, UD.
Okay. Who knows? It might be a decision-heavy night. Okay, now we get up to a very, very interesting bout in the lightweight division between Renato Moicano and Drew Dober. I'm very interested to see where the two of you are picking this fight because it's a real fun one, and I've thought about it quite a bit, and I'm like, God damn, this is a super interesting lightweight fight. So here we go, Moicano. The very quotable 34-year-old out of Brazil, 17-5 with 1 draw, 10 submission victories on his record. Of a little bit of note, 0 wins by knockout or TKO out of his 17-win career. He has never knocked anybody out among the professional ranks. Even though I think of him as having like decent stinging power.
Yeah.
Most recently, he submitted Brad Riddell back in November of 2022. So a bit of a layoff for Moicano. Glad to see him back in the cage this weekend. and he'll be taking on the very popular and very tough Drew Dober, the 35-year-old out of Omaha, Nebraska, USA. His pro record coming into this weekend, 27 wins, 12 defeats, and 1 no contest. Out of his 27 wins, only 7 have gone to the scorecards. He has 6 wins by submission and 14 by knockout or TKO. Probably one of the heaviest hitters among the lightweight ranks. Most recently, he knocked out Ricky Glenn in the very first round back in October. I'll go first. I think this fight is super, super interesting, and I have gone back and forth quite a bit because I could see these are two guys that don't give a fuck. We know Moicano doesn't give a fuck, right? But we also know that Drew Dober will stand toe-to-toe with literally anybody because he has great power that he trusts, and he also has a giant granite head that he also trusts a lot. So I think it is possible that Moicano could sting him and stop him. But I just think that on paper, I think that Drew Dober should be the more talented guy. And I'm going to go with Drew Dober. I'll say Drew Dober gets another one over Moicano. I'll say he knocks him out. I'll say round 1. Why not?
Wow.
Omar, you go.
I think this is actually going to be. I think this is going to be fight of the night. I think this is going to be a barn burner. I think these guys are. I think this is going to go back and forth. This is going to be one of those 1-1 going into the third kind of situations. I believe, and I think Drew Dober does end up winning. I do. I think that once we get into the third round, I think Drew Dober. I trust Drew Dober to be a little bit fresher, even when he's damaged to hell. And I think he'll end up with a win here, man. I think he's going to end up with a nice finish, and I think it'll be a TKO victory for Drew Dober round 3.
In the third?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Mark.
All right, so you guys are both on the dog. Drew Dober is a plus 145 underdog, and Moicano is minus 180 as the favorite, which is a little wider than I thought. Like 145 sounds reasonable. 180 sounds like
180 is, yeah.
The sizes with Moicano, he's 3 inches taller. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage. And yeah, I love both of these guys, and I think they're both super legit, so it pains me to pick against one of them here. I kind of wish they were each getting a crack at someone else to try to break through here. It sucks that one of them has to get turned back, but I will be the differentiator here, and I will go with Renato Moicano. I would have been more confident in it if it wasn't for this 14-month layoff. I really don't love that aspect, but I'm still going to go with him. The concern, obviously, is Drew Dober's hands. He throws bombs, and Moicano has had times in his career where he's just super open and vulnerable to big shots. But it does seem like he's moved past that lately. Honestly, since he moved up to 155, it seems like that issue has kind of gone away. So maybe it was just a circumstance of cutting too much weight. Now we're seeing him outstrike strikers like Brad Riddell. Like he won that fight by submission, but he was outstriking him before the submission. So he has certainly upped his game, and it seems like his chin has been better at 155 to the point that he can safely be in these more violent exchanges that maybe at 145 he couldn't risk as much. Now, will that matter against the power of Drew Dober? We will see. But I just think all in all, when you have a guy who's gotten as good as Moicano has on the feet, who I believe can match Dober there or at least come close to it, and then you factor in what a big grappling advantage he's going to have, I can't ignore that. Now, getting Dober into a grappling situation may be a big ask, but I just feel like it's going to be a crazy fight. And I'm not saying it's going to be some clean takedown, but I just think there'll be a moment or two of like off balance, big exchanges, things like that, where they clinch and Moicano can take it back or who knows what. So I think all in all, I'm going to go that way. I don't think I'm saying he catches Dober, but I think that well-roundedness will just allow him to adjust when he needs to and maybe dictate a bit more of the fight. So I will go with Moicano to win a decision in what is hopefully a close back and forth scrap.
Okay.
Dog, the people that have submitted Drew Dober have been Islam Makhachev, Beneil Dariush, Olivier Aubin-Mercier, Efrain Escudero. And that's it.
I mean, Moicano's belongs on that level, though. His jits is nasty.
It's not bad. But he also has...
But I didn't pick it. I picked decision.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Main event time. UFC Fight Night. This Saturday night, once again, going down at the UFC Apex. UFC Fight Night, Dolidze versus Imavov, headlined by two big, tall middleweights. Here we go. Roman the Caucasian Dolidze, the 35-year-old out of Georgia, the country of Georgia, that is. His pro record coming into this Saturday night, 12 victories with 2 defeats, with 7 big wins coming by way of knockout, and you can add another 3 wins by submission to that, which means that only 2 of his 12 victories have gone to the judges. Most recently, his hype train had a brief halt when he faced off against the Italian veteran Marvin Vettori back in March of 2023, and he's looking to right the ship and get back on his hype express, taking on another outstanding striker in Nassourdine Imavov, the 28-year-old, fighting out of Paris, France. His professional record, 12 victories with 4 defeats and 1 no contest, with 9 of his 12 wins being finishes, very even, 5 of them knockouts, 4 of them are submission wins. After losing to the future champ, Sean Strickland, where he really kind of got outclassed and he got Sean Stricklanded, he went up against the very talented Chris Curtis, who fought just recently, by the way. And that fight, unfortunately, ended in the second round due to an accidental clash of heads. And here we are. And now he goes from Curtis to the very dangerous Caucasian, Roman Dolidze. Here we go. Mark, lead us off with those odds, and then give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, this is another good one. Odds are similar to the last one. The favorite, Imavov, is minus 170. The underdog in Dolidze is plus 140. And I'm very curious to hear who you guys have in this one too, but I don't get the luxury this time. Measurables are tight. Imavov is 1 inch taller. Dolidze has a 1 inch reach advantage, so pretty much nothing to factor in there. It's tough to go against Roman Dolidze simply because of the danger that he brings into the cage. He's a physical animal. He'll bully you. He hits very hard. He can be a scary grappler. But, man, I just feel like there's a technique difference here, and I'm always a sucker for siding with the technique. And maybe that physical style that Dolidze has is exactly what you need to make the technique of Imavov into a non-factor, but Imavov has never been finished aside from the first fight of his pro career. He's been in there with Chris Curtis, who he was beating prior to the odd ending. He's been in there with Sean Strickland, hanging with him. He's beat dangerous guys like Buckley and Shabazian. He can also wrestle legitimately well, which people overlook when they talk about him. I just think he can survive with Roman Dolidze. I'd feel better about the pick if it was 3 rounds. Obviously, 5 means having to survive an extra 10 minutes where Dolidze could find something huge, and you never know with him, but I think he can do it. I'm not like 1,000,000% sold on Imavov as a top contender at 185 either, but like Roman Dolidze lost to Trevin Giles. So just seeing that shows you that there is some technique there to be exploited if he is not finishing you. And I will say that Imavov can stay safe and do just that. He moves so much better. Dolidze is plotting and stationary at times, and I just think that Imavov can kind of outwork him. So I'll take him to complete the sweep and go with my sixth straight UD pick on this main card for Nassourdine Imavov. So pull up your betting apps right now and lock in 6 straight finishes.
Yeah. Okay, Omar.
Yeah, this one is also hard for me to pick as well. I landed on Dolidze in the end. I think for me, the thing I like about watching Dolidze and what I think makes him a dangerous fighter is his awkwardness, his ability to scramble, his ability to kind of stay moving and not really letting positions take hold or solidify, which I think could be a real thing to use against Imavov if it ever does go down to the ground. But I do also trust the hands of Dolidze as well. I don't think, we're not talking about world class strikers here, but Dolidze has good solid hands in him, and I think it comes with its worries, especially when you add the grappling factor on top of it. So I'm gonna go with Dolidze here. I think it's gonna be a hard fought fight. It's probably gonna be the entirety of the 5 rounds. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little back and forth, but I'm going to go with Dolidze to get at least 3 out of the 2 of those rounds. Nope, 3 out of the 5 of those rounds.
So, Mark, I think you're right to point out that this matchup is going to be one of technique versus more brute strength between Imavov and Dolidze. And look, Imavov has nice wins over some guys with hype that he took. He took Kyle Dawkins' hype. He took part of Phil Hawes' hype. He beat Jack Hermanson. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Roman Dolidze. I'm talking about Imavov. He beat Joaquin Buckley. He beat Shabazian. But he also lost to Phil Hawes, who has lost 3 of his last 4 fights, even though he lost to Strickland. And Dolidze, he lost to Vettori, who's a top 5 middleweight, even though he lost to Trevin Giles. So they both have like a recent-ish loss over an elite guy and like a loss over a not so elite guy. And I love your point about Imavov's technique maybe trumping Dolidze's more of a brute strength approach, but it's that this is middleweight, and middleweight to me is that first weight class, and I think I've said this before, where you kind of start to play the game of who can just kind of catch who first sometimes. I've been high on both of these guys, to be quite honest. I'm a big fan of Imavov. I love his kickboxing. I love his striking. And I've been high on Dolidze too. I'm going to go with the feel on this one then. I think it's super even to me. I'm going to go with Dolidze. Neither one of these guys have been finished. I don't think Dolidze has been finished ever. And Imavov is also very tough to finish.
He has
only
not
been subbed once.
Dolidze has never been finished.
Yeah. Okay, Imavov was subbed in his very first pro fight. Okay. So for that reason, I'll say Dolidze, UD, and we'll go from there.
Wow, we all picked it to see the cards. Interesting.
We're kind of going off the numbers here.
I think it's going to be a rough fight.
Dolidze's the finisher, dude. You both picked Dolidze, and you both picked him to win a decision. His wins usually come by finish.
It's true. But a guy who's never been finished since his first.
Oh, no, I get it. I'm just saying, I don't know that it's going off the numbers necessarily.
True.
See, for me, the way that Dolidze wins these fights by KO and all that stuff is really the combinations and the pressure that he puts together. But what happens when you can't get a guy to wilt? Because I don't think Imavov will wilt. Yeah. So when that doesn't happen, you just keep beating on him. And so I think that might be what ends up happening. But I also don't see, obviously, Imavov. I see these kind of having like some back and forth to it as well, especially in between rounds, coming out at the beginning of the round, Imavov coming out strong for a little bit, eventually kind of getting to a point where, Dolidze kind of takes over the pace, and it could potentially steal rounds here and there just kind of through that kind of formula. But I think in the end, Dolidze is just going to put in more work overall that I can't see him. I don't see him losing that fight.
I just realized this bullshit is a 7:00 main card. The fuck out of here.
Don't you fucking realize we have kids to put to bed? Sons of
Painful.
bitches.
Painful.
That does suck. All right, boy.
Good work, boys. Good work.
We did it. Quick and easy. A quickie, one might
It was
say.
a 1 hour show.
It was great.
I'll take
I like it.
It's going to be the earliest I've ever been in bed after we recorded a show.
Look at that. Look at that.
What was I going to say? I totally forgot.
And with that, have a great week.
Oh, by the way, this weekend, starting off with a new promotion. If you guys haven't seen on my socials,
Oh, yeah?
Mitten Muay Thai It's
No, I didn't see.
Yeah, in the great state of Michigan, Michigan's first ever pro Muay Thai promotion.
Very nice.
Their inaugural event this Friday in
Nice.
Detroit. The Instagram gods, the algorithm, just kind of like plopped their first post like right into my feed, and I was like, "Oh shit! The state I live in now has a pro Muay Thai promotion. Let me DM this guy." I was
Where'd
like,
you
"Hey."
say it is? Detroit?
Yeah, it's gonna be in Detroit. And I DM'd the account, and I was like, "Hey, I see you're starting this thing. I live in Michigan. I just so happen to be a professional ring announcer. If you don't have one yet, consider me." And they were like, "Consider you?" Like, "Yes, please be our ring announcer." And I was like, "Shit, this kind of just happened out of nowhere. It's kind of came
Nice.
out of thin air."
Nice. That's awesome.
So it seems cool.
I love
Go
the
check them
hustle.
out. Go check out their account, Mitten Muay Thai. I have been very impressed by right out of the gate. They have some really nice video, really nice editing, and really good promos. Really good. I mean,
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So
Mitten, are you saying?
yes, because
I like that.
even though it's a little bit of a play on words, because even though the official state nickname of Michigan is the Great Lakes State, the colloquial nickname of Michigan is the Mitten State, because Michigan
Right.
looks like a mitten. So it's
Yeah.
Mitten Muay Thai, and I think also because you
Oh
have
my
boxing
God.
mitts.
Right. That's why I like it.
What?
Because it plays on Michigan and it plays on gloves.
There you go.
My friend lives in Michigan, is from Michigan, and she always used to have this in her, like the hand emoji in her fucking Instagram stuff and like all her.
Yep.
Fuck. I never
Oh, did
know
you
why.
just realize that? Did you just put that together?
Yes, I didn't know that shit.
Yes. People in Michigan love the fact that they love the whole
Yeah.
mitten thing.
They do.
It's also very useful because you just hold up your right hand
Oh,
and you can
God.
tell anybody where you live. What?
It's what everyone fucking does all the time. Yeah, because you hold it up and you can say, look right here.
You
You're
can't
such
do
a-
that with New York.
You're such a Michigander, dude.
Of course you can. Watch. I lived right there.
You know what would
It's
be
the same
really
thing.
cool?
Wait, this is
Need more
this is-
height. It's got to be like
That's what I'm saying. I knew that was gonna happen. What if you did this and like a New
We're
York
off the
State
rails.
shaped emoji like floated up?
we're just so good at making the shape of New York. That it's like, oh, New York, yeah, obviously.
All right, you crazy kids, let's get out of here. Enjoy these fights this weekend. This main event banger in the middleweight division between Dolidze and Imavov is going to be must-see TV. Let's be honest here. There's a few fights on this card that I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to see the
Yeah.
Randy Brown fight, the co-main with Moicano and Dober, Khizriev, Natalia, Silva. This is a nice little fight night card, guys.
It's a good fight.
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
quietly good one.
Yeah, for sure. And also, this
Nice
kicks
and
off
early.
like 11 straight weekends of UFC.
Yeah, I saw that.
Good
We're
stuff,
gonna
good
be
stuff.
busy.
So we will see you. That being said, yes, we will see you guys right back here next week. Until then, signing off.
Peace.
Peace.